Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Matt Rad on the line, and he is a returning guest, and he's coming back for the Creating Digital Assets series, where we bring you the best of what it means to create digital assets and hopefully be profitable. Got a whole lot more on today's topic: digital real estate versus traditional property, why the property boom is over for many. Matt, first off, welcome back and love the topic that's proposed. Glad to have you back.
Awesome, Adam. It's definitely a pleasure to be here again. And yeah, I'm very excited to discuss this topic because it's very topical at the moment.
Yeah,
About
and
real
we
estate.
got some controversial questions here. Should we take money and build a digital asset instead of a house deposit? Why is the $1 million mortgage the biggest threat to freedom in 2026? So we're going to cover this and more. But first, Matt, I don't want to assume that maybe some of our newer listeners caught some of our previous work together. So maybe just start with a little bit of what you do and maybe talk about the eBusiness Institute.
Yeah, so my wife and I have made our wealth in a unique way, which is through buying and selling businesses. And particularly in the last 20 years, we've been buying and selling online businesses. And so we're entrepreneurs up front. We've never been fans of real estate, particularly in these times. We've always tried to find ways to do things debt free because in our early journey of of being entrepreneurs, we were heavily in debt. We were buying
Yeah.
up manufacturing, wholesale, import businesses. And as young entrepreneurs back then, which we were, it was very, very challenging. And we were close to bankruptcy all the time. So we don't want that for people these days. And the good news is now with AI, you don't
Yeah.
need to go into heavy debt. So we're all about financial freedom. And I mean true freedom, Adam, like not indebted to the bank. It means
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want in life. If you want to just quit and go and sit on an island somewhere or whatever, you can. You don't have to, because we've had to sell businesses in the past. We've got lots of debt on them. It's just like real estate. It's really challenging. So yeah, like I said, our story is we figured out how to make lots of money online through buying and selling online businesses.
Yeah.
And we realized, wow, this is something that even beginners can do. It's really cool. And particularly these days, young people, if you don't have a lot of money, but you've got a bit of time and you're prepared to put in the effort with AI and the mobile phone,
Yeah.
you can get up and running.
Yeah. So when we think about and we're comparing digital, let's start kind of basic here. So before we get into like the why, let's get into some of the like just what. So digital assets versus traditional, let's say real property through like real estate. Can you kind of juxtapose those two just to kind of start the conversation?
Yeah. So where we started with this whole strategy is very similar to, flipping houses idea. So, and what we do is actually called flipping. We flip websites. So with a
Yeah.
house, you've got, I guess, trying to buy, what's the word, the worst house in the best street, and you renovate it and flip it.
Yeah.
And you've got the house, like the building itself, and then the address, which is the best street. We do exactly the same thing online. We're looking for rundown websites that we can fix up, and they have a good address, which is the URL or the website address.
Yeah.
They're in a good niche.
So
That's
they're
kind of
both like value adds.
yeah, and it's value add. And then
Yeah.
the actual website that sits on that address is like a house. That's the asset that we view. And it will have, instead of like having 5 bedrooms and bricks and mortar and all that sort of stuff, we've got virtual assets. So ideally
Yeah.
these days, big tip, it's got a list of some kind or a community. And then basically what we do is we renovate that asset, like we renovate a house, and then we either keep for cash flow or we rent it out or we flip it. And so there's lots of options for renting out websites
Yeah.
in a virtual kind of way.
Yeah. Before we go further, just roughly, because I don't think I caught this part. Like you've been doing this just quickly. How many years, roughly, how many businesses have you seen flip things like that? Just briefly as we kind of move forward.
Well, we teach people this. We've got a big community worldwide doing this. So we see thousands of deals.
Yeah.
So we've been teaching this since 2010. So
Yeah.
we started seriously doing this during the global financial crisis. So when there was that big
Yeah.
recession back then, and
Yeah.
it was a great time to get started in this space because we're buying rundown assets, just like
For
people
sure.
buy
Yeah, and
rundown
I
property.
just asked that again for the new listeners that maybe didn't catch some of our older stuff that we've done together because you've been doing it for a long time. Like that's the
Yeah,
main thing
yeah.
here is that you've been doing this for a long time. And so
Buying
because
and selling.
sometimes people will listen to an episode like this and they'll be like, well, but this guy, this, that, and I don't know. But I'm like, no,
Gotcha. Yeah.
you've been doing it for a long time,
Yep.
thousands of deals you've seen, and you've been teaching this for a long time. All right, so we can move on. I just wanted to set the stage with that. So now I think when people juxtapose, I guess, their traditional thought process of real estate versus a digital asset, just to kind of take that comparison further, let's talk risk. I mean, risk. Both have
Yeah.
risks. Like, can you maybe compare
Absolutely.
some of those types of risk factors?
Yeah, there's definitely risk. So this is buying and selling businesses. These are just
Mm-hmm.
mini businesses. They're not six-figure, seven-figure style businesses.
Yeah.
So like any kind of business, there's definitely risk. And that's why the rewards, though, are so much higher. So if you invest money in the bank, you're lucky to get, 4 or 5% cash yield for your average investor. Same as real estate, you're getting net returns 4 or 5%. With these businesses, because they're higher risk, we are typically getting 30 to 50% returns, sometimes 80% returns. So you can make your money back very quickly if you're good at it. But make no mistake, Adam, you're spot on. There is risks,
Of
and
course.
that's why the way you reduce those risks is through knowledge. You need to
Yeah.
be able to do good due diligence here. You need to understand how websites work. Of course, that's what we teach. And then it's also reducing risk is by buying right. So just like with real estate, people make their money when they buy. If you're into this flipping kind of
Of
idea,
course. Yeah.
so it's the
Yeah.
same with these websites. And I guess too, the main risks these days are upfront AI. But you can mitigate that by buying the right kind of website. It's not always about buying it at the right price, too. It's about buying the right kind of website. And then other big risk is, which is diminishing somewhat, but is the Google risk, like what happens to these websites? Do they become obsolete or whatever? That's the smarts, though. That's where the big opportunity is. Once you figure that out,
Yeah.
you can find the rundown assets and fix them up. So, yeah, definitely the risks are higher, but the rewards are much higher because typically, now I'm going into too much detail, but we're buying on what's called a 3 times multiple. So if a website's making, say, 100 grand a year, you'll buy that for 300,000. So you'll get $100,000 net out of that business. That's a very high return. That's a 30% return on your money. You don't get that in a bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if there's no debt with that, then you can make a lot of money. But what we get people to start out with, if you're new here, is way smaller websites than that. We're talking buying websites under $10,000. So I think it's a really good question. The way we're really about being risk averse for our clients' sake because we realize a lot of them are beginners. So a big bit of advice to reduce your risk significantly when you're getting into a business. And Adam, this is why we love telling people about these digital assets is you don't have to be getting into $100,000 businesses or anything for your first business. The good news is you can buy a really good website for under $10,000. It's not going to make you rich, but you will learn the ropes and you'll make your money and you can at least sell it for what you paid for it or ideally double it. So really to reduce your risk, I guess the first big lesson is start small. We actually say that's our mantra, start small. In the old days, we used to tell people buy a website under $1,000 because you can.
Yeah.
It's not like traditional, you can't buy a traditional bricks and mortar business for under $1,000.
For sure.
Whereas you can with a website. So basically start small, learn the ropes. If you lose $1,000 or $5,000, then that's the cost of doing business. It does cost money to learn this stuff. It's cheaper than. So when we buy a traditional bricks and mortar business, Adam, for me to even talk to a lawyer or what you guys call an attorney, I'm up for $5,000 anyway if I'm buying a bigger business. Whereas I can buy a whole online business for $5,000.
Yeah. And so, let's get back to kind of some of the part about the real estate. So if you got 50,000 today and you're saying, hey, a deposit on a home or get some digital assets, what are you doing, Matt? I think I know the answer, but what are you doing?
I'm biased as you
What
can
are you
tell.
doing and why, by the way? You got to give me the answer.
Why the hell would you buy a house in this day and age and go into all that debt? Because you leverage that money up with debt. I'm just heard, I'm not a fan of debt. I'm all about financial freedom. And Liz and I always wanted to be, after being in debt to the banks for so many years and skirting with bankruptcy so many times, I don't like that feeling, particularly if you hit a recession.
Does anybody like that feeling? Hold on, Matt.
I don't know.
I don't think anybody likes that feeling. What do you mean?
Well, maybe people don't realize that's the whole thing. There is another way. So we have a lot of clients, Adam, that are real estate investors, both here in Australia and in America.
Yeah.
And they're all maxed out with the banks anyway. They can't borrow any more money. You can only borrow so much money to flip or to buy lots of houses.
Sure.
But gosh, they're in debt. They're in debt for millions. And your average, we're now getting a lot of millennials talking to. So the last week or so, I've been talking with lots of millennials, and they've given up on real estate. They just cannot afford it. And I'm saying, or they're asking advice. I've had a few coaching calls with them. These are millennials who are high income earners. They are earning six figures, like serious money. And they've gone to the bank and they're being told, like, you can borrow $1 million. But I'm saying, hang on a minute, before you do that, have a think about this. Why wouldn't you back yourself for the next 12 months? It's only 12 months. See if you can make this work. You're not going to have to invest more than 50 grand to know if this is going to work or not. The upside is enormous. They call it asymmetric risk. The downside's really low. It's just your time and a bit of money. It doesn't even have to be 50 grand. But really, I'm saying to these younger people, including our own kids, forget about buying real estate at the moment. Just back, if you're interested in this sort of stuff, why the hell wouldn't you back yourself? Because literally these days, you're not forking out lots of money to have a crack at this, and the upside is absolutely enormous if you get it. Even if you just break even, like you buy a couple of websites for, say, $5,000, $10,000, that's still, there's no debt. You can walk away from it. You can sell them. Whereas you go into debt right now for $1 million when your job is a bit shaky because of AI. A lot of these people are professionals. They're possibly going to lose their jobs. Also, the economy, there's a lot of fear out there around the economy, or just, are we at the peak for real estate? Depends on you. I'm not a real estate investor. I'm not giving financial advice. It's just my opinion as an entrepreneur. But I see the risk for people now, it's going into debt 6 or 7 figures, which is stuck with for the next 20 years of your life. Put aside 12 months and learn this stuff instead. It's heaps easier. And I think the opportunities now are even bigger with AI. This is, let's face it, all of us need AI skills anyway. Why the hell wouldn't you literally earn while you learn some money and back yourself for 12 months? That's it.
So when I first started buying real estate way back in the day, what I do is I go on, I don't know, whatever website I was going on, I print it out, I put it in my little folder, my little like staple, and I go and have my little pen and highlighter, and then I'd be driving around and I go like walk these properties and all this other stuff before I made an offer. Now, how are you doing this with websites? You're not walking websites. What are you doing? Like, how are you hunting for these?
Exactly the same way. So we're hunting through website broker sites, which is like the real estate sites that you went to, and we're doing our due diligence in the same way. Instead of walking the street, though, we do it at home in front of a laptop in our pajamas, and we're just doing due diligence. We're just looking at the profit and traffic, making sure it all stacks up, and most importantly, the big part these days is looking at the market that it's in and how it makes money, and making sure we can use AI to grow it and that it's not going to be disrupted by AI. So it's the same sort of, it's very similar thought processes.
Is there a number? So I think mine was like off the top of my head, maybe it was like walk 100 and then make an offer on like 10 or 20, something like that, and then close one. It was something like that. I forgot though. But is there a number that you guys go for?
It's a really good question.
The secret sauce. Come on, Matt, giving out the secret sauce. What's going on?
That is the secret sauce, Adam. I'm impressed. That is literally what you've got to do. And I think that's why
that comes right out of real estate. I didn't make that up.
Yeah, well, that's the bit that no one wants to hear. So people hear me, and I know I'm that enthusiastic about this. It's easy to get overexcited and think, oh, I'm going to get rich quick. I'm going to find a deal on one of these broker sites, and it'll replace my income within the next few months. It does not work like that, because what Adam just said
Does not.
is spot on. You don't find the deals every day, particularly the really, really good ones.
It's the same with real estate, though, for people that are going out and do it. And the difference is, I guess in real estate, though, the difference is for those that don't want to get out there and walk, they end up investing with somebody else that's going to go do that walking for them. Like that's what you do in real estate, through a manager.
Yeah, through a manager. And what we teach people is you do need to do lots of due diligences. We have a saying here. I'm looking for my cap. It's reps, reps, reps. You've just got to practice the due diligence, particularly when you're learning. And yes, you should be looking, like ideally you should spend 4 or 5 hours on a weekend like you would have with real estate, right?
4 or 5 hours? No, we were walking. It's nothing. Are you kidding me? That's 20 hours on the weekend. You got to drive to the properties. You got to walk. That's a lot. That was a lot of 5 hours. That you do that in your sleep if you're interested.
In my opinion, that's just the starting point where we go to a site. I would recommend like a site like flipper.com, because there are these smaller websites, and you can you don't even have to sign the non-disclosure agreements. You can see all the stats. You can see how much money these websites make, and you can just start trawling through them. But then what we suggest is, if you're doing this as a side hustle, you put aside like a Saturday morning, 4 or 5 hours to go through them. And then when you find what you said, when you find the ones that are interesting, then we do the deep dive. And we really do what we call detailed keyword research and niche research. And that's where the fun starts. But you will literally look at how many deals would you... I'll give you a time frame. When we first started teaching this, is quite amusing. One of our most successful clients, they make they hit $100,000 months. Okay, so they're doing 7 figures now online. But Gary was an ex-accountant, and he was transitioning over to this. And for 1 year, I was a lot harsher coach back then, but I made him do due diligences nonstop, and he wasn't ever allowed to buy a website over $1,000. So he was
wow. So he really got some reps.
Yeah. And he did in-depth due diligence on hundreds of websites.
Had to. At that price. Wow.
And then
he ended up with a bunch of micro caps on his hands, or micro caps. Yeah.
But he learned how to run them and build. So he bought up a bunch of sites, and some worked, some didn't, some failed. He made all the mistakes. But then within 18 months, so after that first year, I said, all right, the training wheels are off. You know how to do this now. Go for it. And very rapidly, he bought a couple of websites under $50,000 and he renovated, because he'd done so much due diligence. He knew the niches that
he could feel it. And it's the same in real estate. In real estate, if you're going after fourplexes and you start walking and you walk enough of them, you just step on it and you already know what it is and you memorize it and this and that. It becomes sixth sense for your niche. That's why in real estate, and I guess I'll ask you on the digital side if this is correct or not, but in real estate, like let's say you're going after one particular niche, whether it's single family, fourplexes, duplex, those kind of overlap. Like normally someone's going to stay in a niche. Is the website side of things the same way or not so much?
It's really good to get to know certain niches, but it's actually more about how they're monetized and how AI proof they are. So that's the niche that you've got to understand. But yes.
So it's evolved. Obviously, it's based off you saying how AI proof it is. That means that's a new complexity that didn't exist X amount of years ago.
That's right. So once you figure that out, and this is really cool, like what you did, like Gary, literally in the next 12 months, so around month 18, they started hitting $30,000 to $50,000 months because they'd bought such good websites. And they'd seen so many, they'd done so much due diligence, they just knew it. And we've got an example right now, fast forward through to today, talking about understanding the AI proof. We have Ashleen, who is doing the same thing. She's admittedly, she's burnt out corporate, made lots of money in corporate, quit a job, and just took a year off. Did what I just suggested, backed herself with 50 grand, right? And she's bought and sold, I think she's up to about half a dozen websites over this last year. She's on our podcast, but she's bought what she's specializing in now is she just does due diligences every day. She's literally traveling around the world on a laptop, which is pretty cool. No debt or anything. And she works. She said to me, doing the due diligence, when she's in the flow, like when she needs to buy a site, she'll sit there for 2 or 3 hours a day, just going through lots of deals, like you said, and then she'll go in deeper and contact them. But she's figured out buying courses is AI proof. And what we teach is particularly when it's got a community. And she's recently, it's one of the best deals ever. This website was sitting on a broker platform called Flipper, and you had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get access to it, which most people don't even do for some reason. She did. And she realized this is what we call a diamond in the rough. Talking about real estate, it had the sort of assets that we look for. It was 15 years old. The owner is retiring. He's had it he lives in Thailand, and it teaches how to become a certified Thai masseur. Ashleen is not an instructor, but this guy set it up as an instructor, right?
Yeah.
It's ticked along for the last 15 years, Adam, on pretty much autopilot, making anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
Must have insane domain authority, like any metric you could possibly think of. Insane. And that's a high search term. That's insane. And then because it was an autopilot, there was a lot of value add. It's like somebody that had a property that the tenants have always paid, so they never upgraded anything, and they never really maybe even raised rents because they didn't have to, because they were getting a steady check and they were okay. They were comfortable.
That's exactly it. It sounds like you've done this before. See what Adam's just described there. That is exactly what we're looking for when we decide to go into the deeper due diligence. And it's super cool. This site, there's even better stuff. There's 15 years of success stories with the clients. The gentleman is a lovely guy that sold it. It's a genuine reason. He lives in Thailand as an expat, so you don't need much money to live off. So he's let it run. He just updates it a little bit, but it's a very old looking site. And of course, with AI now, she's done so many reps and bought and sold a few websites in this last year and lots of due diligence. She recognized exactly what you said, Adam. And not only that, when I spoke to her about it, I was saying, well, there's all this what's called user generated content. So not just high domain authority, but there's all this user generated content, which is literally the gold in this day and age of AI, because people want real experiences. It's just sitting there in testimonials and in a big forum that's on there. And I was saying you can turn that into really, really useful content with AI. And now her and I just did a coaching call with her last week. And even with AI, between myself and AI and her, we renovated the whole website. It was just it's set up. And there's so much opportunity with that. But even just so you know, the story is she's owned that site now for 2 or 3 months, maybe a bit longer, 6 months, something like that. And she said, Matt, it's legit. It's ticking along. She just hit her first $5,000 net profit last month off it.
Wow.
So she's renovated it from the 3,000 to the 5,000.
That's a huge percentage difference. Are you kidding me?
Massive. And all she did was she just put the prices of the course up because it's such a good course. And
makes sense.
Bundled it up with some extra bonuses. So it used to sell like $180 course. Now she's just put it up to around, I think, $299.
Wow.
For the $5,000.
Wow. So she basically raised rents. She raised rents and she added a new coat of paint.
That's it. New coat of paint. Literally, you're right. That's exactly it. And that's all she's done.
Matt, hold on. I'm taking offense here. Why are you so surprised? Like, who do you think you're co-hosting the show with? Like, you're so shocked. I don't understand this out of you right now. Should I be gratified or should I be like, what?
Yeah. Well, look, you're wearing a shirt that says property. See, like a real traditional real estate. I just noticed on your t-shirt must be a subliminal or something. But that's why we're excited about digital property. So for your listeners who've done property before, like yourself, you get this stuff, you get the general concept straight away. The main challenge is understanding the risks before you go into a deal like that. So that's like cost of $50,000. Now it's netting her $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And plus she owns 5 other websites at the moment, and they're much smaller. She bought them for under $5,000. She followed our system, learned small, start out small, and they're each making around $200 a month. It's
Love
not bad
it.
money. They're semi-passive. She's a team of one and AI. That's all she needs to run this. And she's literally earning, when we added it up the other day, and it's on the podcast as well. When I record the podcast, she was up to about $80,000 US net a month. This is monthly. Oh, sorry, a year when we added it all up. But now that the sites have started to take off for her and she's renovated them, she's up over $100,000 now a year. So it's not bad for her. No debt, just what she's had to outlay. She's flipped two of them.
Yeah.
So really, she's spent less than 50 grand.
That's amazing. Matt, this has been fun having you back on today, man. I know we got many more ideas and thoughts for the next episodes coming up. I'm not worried. I'm glad to know that today you finally understand you got a good co-host and you won't be so shocked next time.
I won't be. Adam, I'm going to say this, and for your listeners' sake, I can't wait to get back on here with you again. That was so much fun. And it's really, you made it easy for all of us.
Last thing, Matt, and eBusiness Institute, I want our listeners to go check it out. How do they connect with you and your team?
So there's three ways. Go to ebusinessinstitute.com.au. It is an Australian site, but we serve a lot of our American clients as well, particularly if you're high income earners and looking to quit your job. But also go and check me out on LinkedIn. Just look up my name, Matt Rad. I post a lot of insights there from coaching calls, like what I did with Ashleen, say. Or you can listen to our Digital Investors podcast.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration. So this has been Creating Digital Assets with Adam Torres and Matt Rad. So good to have you back, man. And until the next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.